Did they fake?
Would you be surprised that Nike, yes Nike, only paid $37 for their logo? You know, the swoosh. Maybe it'll surprise you more that BP, petroleum company, paid $5.6 million for their logo, their new one.
$1 million.
Yeah? Crazy. So what does a logo cost? The answer should be, always, it depends. So the circus is in town, right over our back fence as well, so it's wild to see some camels in our backyard. But it's my daughter's birthday tomorrow, so we're going to take her to the circus. I wonder what they paid for their logo. Alright, got our tickets. All set for tomorrow night for some fun. Now, if I had to give you an answer for this question, I could only give you a ballpark, and it's anywhere between a case of beer and a new Range Rover 4-wheel drive. It's that different for what a logo should cost. And I think it's a fairly reasonable scale, even though it is quite broad, because it depends on the type of business or the person that you're engaging with. If it's for a mate, a case of beer might be worth it, yeah? To keep that friendship going, help a mate out. I have done that plenty of times. But if it's for a national brand, like a bank or something of the like, that has a scale of reputation already built into it, the cost of a new Land Rover should be nothing in comparison to the equity that they have and value that they have in their brand for customers to continue to remember them, recognize them, and choose them when they think of their brand, need their brand, and try to find their brand. Sorry about the audio up there, it was a bit windy. All I had was just my phone, so back to my little lapel mic. These are good if you do video content at all, and you want like a little lavalier kind of mic. These things are magnetic, they just pin to the back of your shirt kind of thing. Come in a nice little case with another transmitter and a receiver if you have a proper camera rather than into what I have or to a phone. Nice little handy microphone. Now, what a logo costs comes down to a myriad of different reasons, and it could be either one reason or probably a conjunction of a few different reasons. When I was out for a walk before, I wrote down a few different things in no particular order here. One of the first reasons that I had here is risk, based on the fame and size of the brand. Like I said before, if it costs for a national brand like a bank, 200 grand or more, that cost of that Land Rover, Range Rover, it's kind of danger money. Yeah, there is inherent risk in changing such a distinctive asset as a logo or even colors. So there is some risk involved in making sure you're getting it right. Yeah. The next one I wrote down here is reputation. And this could be for a solo designer, kind of like myself, or for an agency that has a particular reputation, be it Pentagram or Landor, or if you have a certain style about you that people come to you for that particular style. One classic example of this reputation was a designer named Paul Rand. Just having to look up what other logos Paul Rand has made here. Westinghouse is one of his logos, IBM, ABC in America, UPS before they changed it. So he has some pedigree. He has a reputation that preceded him, so that when Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, when he was ousted out of Apple and he started this new computer company called Next, he approached Paul Rand. Paul Rand said, anecdotally, yep, that'll be $1 million. I'll come back to you when I'm ready. All right, the next one was the size of the agency that designs it due to overheads. Now in an agency, depending on the size, you've got 2 to 3 people, all the way up to 100. These big agencies, these big global agencies now that specialize in branding, specialize in logo design and everything that comes with it. They've got overheads. They've got mouths to feed. They've got to charge accordingly for their services, especially when it does live up to maybe the reputation. And then the next point is experience. They live up to that experience of the work that they've done that precedes them. Is there some pedigree there, like a Paul Rand, of working with big brands where they have charged a lot, obviously, but have delivered an effective result because of it? Experience, okay? Next one is, and the last one I've written down here, quality of prior work. Again, like I said, with experience, you've worked with big brands, you've got a great quality of work, they fit the bill, they're effective. Again, it's a kind of a mishmash of all these different things, most likely, that influence what the cost of a logo is, okay? All right, just so I don't sound like I'm just talking a load of shit here, let's go to some other sources and show you a breakdown of what logos cost. A friend of mine, my pink branding partner in crime, Jacob Cass, on his blog, he did a blog about how much for a logo design, and it gives a great scale of all these different things. So let's have a look at the blog post. All right, so here's the page. How much does a logo design cost in 2024 is this article that Jacob put up in January of this year. If I scroll down, they've got this bar graph, I guess you could say, of what the kind of average price is. That they did some surveys, and I'll come back to what the surveys were in a sec with this other report they did. But you can kind of see that I'm on the money here with the budget range, the mid-range, the high-end kind of range of pricing. So budget anywhere between $0 to $500. I said 1,000, but that's where mid-range starts. So yeah, mid-range anywhere between that $1,000 and $20,000 mark, and that range typically depends on if you're a beginner, an experienced designer, an experienced agency, or an agency model with those overheads. Then you get to the high end, the 50 grand, 100 grand plus for logos, even up to the $1 million mark and beyond. So there's the kind of guide, I guess you could see on paper. But this is the other report I wanted to show you, the State of Brand report that Jacob put together after doing a heap of surveys with branding professionals to see what they charge, see what projects they're doing, and get a good lay of the land of the key, as he says here, the key challenges, trends, strategies shaping branding. So if I scroll down here a little bit further, yeah, there it is. Okay, so the type of projects that are typically worked on. So usually it's not just a logo, it is encompassed within brand identity, which is a little bit more than a logo. It could be a visual identity, could be some messaging as well, could be some other strategy stuff in there possibly. We've also then got strategy below logo design, print collateral, websites, all and sundry below that. And then here's another graph for that pricing range. Pretty much on point to what was shown before, but showing that the majority of designers out there are charging, so 30% here, are charging anywhere between $500 and $2,000 for a logo. That to me is a pretty okay range, because most designers that would have been surveyed here are small business owners, solo business designers, freelancers that will charge a smaller rate because they're probably working with smaller businesses. As we get more experience, the pool becomes less and less and the price goes up, but the amount of those people charging this goes down. So that might give you a bit of a taster of what to expect from the type of designer that you engage with, what kind of price you're in for, what price you could charge if you are a designer. Last thing I'm going to show you on my computer here is this blog post by Yaroslav, the most expensive logo designs in history. You can find this at zkgraphic.com. Now, Yaroslav has put them in order of the more expensive top 10, starting with the city of Melbourne. Based here in Australia, in a state just south of where I am, they paid $625,000 to do this City of Melbourne branding. I don't even know if they still use this, which is a shame because it was nice branding. It was done in 2009, but that is an exceptional cost for a council. It's a local council, City of Melbourne, to pay for this. That said, Melbourne is known as the most livable city in the world. So, it's a great place to visit. I really do enjoy going to Melbourne, but for the logo itself, $625,000. Then we go to the London Olympics. This again was something that I don't know if it got the best attention. City of Melbourne was good. London 2012 Olympics, when it first came out, the logo wasn't received well, like many logos generally aren't. But when it came to the Olympics, it looked great. It was fit for purpose. It stood out, got your attention. It worked in different contexts, and so it all worked out in the end. Then we've got the infamous Pepsi logo redesign. Do yourself a favor if you've got 10 minutes to just scratch your head. Pepsi rebranded to this. They've since rebranded again, but they paid $1 million for this convoluted logo design rationale document, and you can find it online. It is unbelievable for not a good reason. It's a bit of a laughingstock in the design, branding, marketing industry, but check that one out. Then we've got Citibank, another famous logo design story that is hailed throughout the design, branding, marketing space. Designed by Paula Scher from a very leading branding agency called Pentagram. And Pentagram are a collection of partners around the world that work with big brands because they have a massive reputation now since working with these big brands like Citi. So when Citicorp and Citigroup, I think it is, they merged. Sorry, Citicorp and Travelers Group merged to be Citigroup. They came up with this logo, but Paula Scher came up with it during a meeting on a cocktail napkin, like just a napkin at the table, and said, "Yep, that's your logo." You're not paying me for the 5 minutes it takes me to make this. You're paying me for the 35 years of experience or whatever it is to be able to do it in 5 minutes. So anyway, a heralded logo there because of that story. $1.5 million. The BBC, this one was quite controversial, paying $1.8 million for this, just 3 letters in 3 boxes. ANZ, another Australian one, is a banking company. They're a bank. They got the money. They make ridiculous profits. $15 million. Yeah, I don't get it. Next one, not heard of this one. Poston Norge rebrand, $55 million. I'm going to gloss past that one. Accenture, $100 million for a little arrow above is quite rich in my opinion. But they had to change their naming, and there was probably other things to it than just being the logo design. Probably not $100 million just for a logo. And then we come to that one that I was mentioning before, BP, going from their old shield to the flower, $210 million in total for their logo design, other branding elements and marketing. So there's that one. The most obscene one that is in the record books is Symantec, with their brand acquisition going in at a whopping $1.28 billion.
Sorry. $100 billion. Oh, gentlemen.
All right, I've had enough of that one. Now, if you're just starting out and you're looking at this video going, far out, that's what it costs, like thousands and thousands of dollars, I wouldn't read too much into that if that's what you're thinking. I think for a business that is starting out, especially a solopreneur type thing where you're starting a business in your basement, your garage, your bedroom, wherever it is, and you need some credibility to the name of your business, to the product or service that you have, to have these all tick boxes done of having a logo, having a name, having some kind of message and some kind of look and feel to give some credibility to your brand that you've started so that someone does trust you. They see these little touch points and they appreciate that you've put some effort in to brand yourself and your product or your service in a way that gives them some confidence to choose a brand that they've never tried before. Okay? And the range of that option is, something between $50 and $1,000. I think that's fairly reasonable when you are starting out and you have nothing to play with, pretty much. As I said before, a case of beer might do it, especially if it's a mate helping you out here, like I've done before for many mates of mine. Case of beer might be all it takes just to get you off the ground. If you're working with somebody that has a bit of experience, has a decent amount of quality in their work, and is willing to help you out at this kind of early stage, and at $1,000 you can swing and invest into that, then great. You might not need to ever touch that logo again, kind of like Nike did with the $37 logo that designed in 1973, I think it was. That stayed true. And that's the kind of goal of branding, that you stick with something as long as possible so that you still keep growing with it rather than outgrowing it. So $50 to $1,000. The quality in that kind of frame of range can be questionable. You can get lucky. You know, I've done logos for, under $1,000 for people when they're starting out before. It depends on who you get. Now, when you get into the range of, let's say, $10,000 to $50,000, things step up a bit, yeah? It depends on the market position that you currently have as a business, or who you are working with as the client. Depends on their existing reputation. It kind of flips a little bit here. You've got the quality, you've got the experience as, say, the designer. Now it depends on the reputation of the business, their success, where their market position is. Are they a national brand? Something like, Chobani here. In this book, my friends made Designing Brand Identity by Rob Meyerson. Check this one out. I'm actually in it. There's a little shot of me in it. I'll show you a little shot here. Now, Chobani, when they rebranded, everyone loved this rebrand. Like, it's one of the only brands I've seen of late that people quite liked. They did a fantastic job of this. The interesting thing, though, is that Chobani did this in-house, whereas most businesses, most brands will take it out of house to an agency. But what you find is that kind of level of business where Chobani was at in 2017 when they did change it, I don't think it would be unreasonable to expect a logo to cost in that higher range of $50,000, if not more. But you should take comfort in this. As a smaller business, it doesn't cost that much. Yes, it's still an investment. Yes, it might feel a little uncomfortable to fork out a few $1,000s for something that is of quality, but see it as that investment. See it as that long-term play with branding, because it always is going to be a long-term play. Sure, you might get customers coming in the early stages because of the brand, but long-term, the more you use it, the more you show up with it, the more valuable it becomes. Now, a few years ago, I was sitting in these red chairs. I had this podcast, I don't know if you can see them, these Herman Miller recliner kind of chairs. They're quite comfortable. I had a podcast called Two Red Chairs, obvious reasons. And I interviewed the designer of the Apple logo. His name is Rob Janoff. Lovely man. And I asked him this question about his logo. It wasn't a dig or anything. It was more a case of, do you think a logo is great, like the one that you designed for Apple, because of its design inherently? Or is it a case of the logo becoming great because of the success of the brand over time? And that baked-in association that's been created that makes us, fall head over heels, especially as designers, for a logo like Apple that has stood the test of time with the success of Apple and has become one of the most, iconic iconic logos of, the business kind of market in this generation that we're in of business. What was the answer? And he said, look, definitely. I didn't know when I designed the logo and Steve came in and I designed this, that Apple would be what it was going to be. But I sit back now and, am lauded by other designers, other marketers for creating what is today one of the most recognizable marks in the world. And it's because of that success that Apple had. So if you do have a logo that is created for $37 like the Nike logo, or the Apple logo when it was designed in 1977 or whenever it was, it can create value over time. It can increase in value over time, just like a house can, just like a car can appreciate for some classic cars. We can have a logo that is of value even if it doesn't cost us all that much to begin with. The motivating factor here is to use your logo forever and a day, as long as you can, and stick with it, especially if you don't outgrow it, so that it does have that value over time. It might not cost that much to begin with, it might not have that value to begin with, but over time, you can see that equity be baked in to your logo, your brand over time. which is something to be excited about, I think, with branding. Now, the one thing most people, I guess, gloss over with branding, especially when you see the numbers of what a logo costs, you might see headlines where a new brand has released its branding and the thing costs $211 million. Huh? Why does it cost that much? I mean, why does it cost that much? That's an obscene amount of money, I think, for a brand, but BP paid that. But people say, okay, that was the logo. Just the logo cost $211 million. Oh my God. But that wasn't just for their logo. I said to you before, it was about $5.6 million that they paid for the logo. Still, that's an incredible amount of money for a logo. But their full brand refresh, update, whatever you want to call it, their rebrand maybe, $211 million they paid. But my point here is that when we do a logo, it shouldn't just be a logo. It should have some kind of strategy behind it, a much more comprehensive brand identity that includes something like messaging, an internal identity that really resonates with an internal brand culture for the team to live and breathe by, to then know how to communicate externally to customers, and then obviously the visual side of things. Not just a logo, but typography, graphic usage, style guidelines for how to use the brand in context, in different contexts. So it's one thing to, see the cost of what a logo is, but kind of look at it more holistically in terms of all the other things that you're going to need to invest in to make sure that your brand comes to life in addition to your logo. And that can include manufacturing costs for, merchandise or signage or printing. It can also, include the cost of needing to have a website or update your packaging. All these things need to be considered on top of a logo and what that logo touches. And that for a big business like a BP, an international brand, the cost that they need to invest in rolling all that out into all their service stations, their petrol stations, their gas stations, that's a significant cost. And that might be still a significant cost for you if you're a small business. So again, something to keep in mind. So I was just redoing my portfolio, like a document that I can send to a client. Haven't done it in ages. And so I'm just like that cat meme that's like at a computer going, just like bashing on a keyboard really quickly to update the portfolio that I have as a document form, put in some new projects in there and display some of the work that would align with what they're trying to do, what kind of brand they are. So they're a product brand. Trying to put a couple of those little examples that I've done, which is few and far between. I would typically work more with service-based businesses, but it's good to have. It's like that, it's forcing your hand to do those things. So I need someone to force my hand to do this website so I can just get that sorted as well. Anyway, back to work for a bit, and then the kids are home, and then I need to build a bike later. So that's probably where I'm going to pick this up. I'll see you in a bit.
6.5 hours later.
Okay, it is 9 o'clock at night. Time to build a bike. Now, before I start building this bike, because it's going to take longer than I think it should, branding is still valuable. Paying that much for a logo, for branding, is of value to businesses, because it is what gives us an irrational reason as consumers to choose brands like these that have invested in so much to influence our behavior, to influence our choice, to think of and choose them over others. And some brands reach cult statuses because of their brand, because of the emotional connection that they've made, so that people walk around wearing Nike shoes as a status symbol for who they are and what brands that they take on as part of their own personality. This stuff is valuable to some brands. Not all brands are like this. There's a lot of brands that have a utility rather than something that you can emotionally connect with, and it's just a commodity and it's there to fill the numbers. They get the business job done. But for some brands you can, or some businesses, you can build this brand on top to be known for more than what it is you sell, be it your product or your service. This brand is, building equity. So this is why some brands spend squillions of dollars to invest in their brand continuously year after year, and we all question why, but it's what makes them as big as they are. Pretty simple. All right, time to build. That always takes forever. And it's always the brakes at the front of these build to order kind of bikes. It does my head in. I've got another one to do at Christmas for my son. God help me. Anyway, logos, branding, the value, the cost, it all depends. That is always going to be the answer. What it is worth to somebody in their situation. If it's a case of beer or if it's $200 million like BP. There's a huge breadth of difference in cost to a logo, to branding, to marketing even, because it's what somebody is willing to pay, what they see is the value in it, and you know what someone's willing to pay in one respect is going to be different for somebody else. This is why we have $5 logos and we have $5 million logos. So for me, what I charge at least, there's maybe an answer I could give you. Between 5 to 20 grand is typically what I charge for my brand services. That might be your answer that you might be looking for from me. Otherwise, again, it depends. All right, I'm done for the week. Logos, branding, cost versus value. It's all in the eye of the beholder. I've got to do some content now before heading to bed. See you next week. Give the video a like. Subscribe if you like what I got going on here, especially if it's just this casual, easygoing branding chat each week. That's what you can be here for. I'll see you in the next one.
Do better branding.